The restoration of a masterpiece in wrought iron. The Samuel Yellen Gate at the Scripps Estate. In 1927, the heir to the Detroit News publishing empire, William E. Scripps, set about building a country estate in Orion Township, north of Detroit. Will Scripps was an early aviator, engineer, auto manufacturer, and radio pioneer. When Scripps died in 1952, the property passed into the hands of developers who subdivided the open lands. The existence of the house, its famous founder, and its landscaped gardens gradually faded altogether from public awareness. After decades of quiet solitude and seclusion, this hidden jewel has emerged as one of the most important historic sites in the U.S., a rare and exceptionally well-preserved surviving example of the country place era of architecture and landscape design. The house and grounds feature the best craftsmanship of the pre-Depression era in stone, wood, painted finishes, and especially in metalwork. Several wrought iron gates on the exterior are of superior workmanship from the hand of a master. When a major gate in the garden needed immediate attention due to damage from a falling tree, artist, blacksmith, and restoration expert Bob Becker was called in to plan the restoration. He concluded what many had been speculating, that this gate and several others at the mansion were of such high quality that they could only be the work of the legendary Samuel Yellen.
Well, I'd been smithing probably for 5 or 6 years and went to the Detroit Institute of Arts and saw the front gates that was made by Samuel Yellen, as well as several internal pieces of art, and was extremely impressed. His designs were of the old world. Traditional ironwork is of the old world. And he had the techniques down. They were just exquisite in form and shape, as well as how they were executed in the piece of art.
Samuel Yellen, like many other fine craftsmen, emigrated to the U.S. from Europe in the early 20th century to meet the growing demand for quality craftsmanship in residential and public building projects. Yellen was exceptionally talented and trained in traditional methods of working in wrought iron that originated in medieval Europe. Like an incarnation of the Greek god Hephaestus, he could magically sculpt and shape hot iron rods into elegant forms of flowers, animals, and other fanciful shapes. He was a high-energy, hard-working, and demanding perfectionist who painstakingly engineered and created mocked-up versions of custom work before beginning the final project. He refused to let subpar work leave his studio in Philadelphia. He soon established a considerable reputation and was in great demand by architects and designers across the country whose wealthy clients wanted only the best. In all, 5 of the 9 exterior wrought iron installations at the Scripps Estate have now been attributed to Samuel Yellen by Bob Becker, who has worked in wrought iron restoration for decades and who has studied and restored Yellen's work in the past. Becker is at the center of this current restoration effort at the Scripps Estate, partly funded by the Michigan Council for Arts and Cultural Affairs. The project will not only rescue this important Yellen work, but will record the traditional methods used by Bob at his forge while he undertakes its restoration. In this way, the time-honored skills of the artist blacksmith can be documented and preserved as well. Forge demonstrations for metal art students and the general public will also help raise awareness about this unique and increasingly rare art form. The Scripps Gate features classic Yellen-style C-scrolls with artfully wrought collars whose seams have been skillfully hidden. It also features the chevron and dot pattern so often used by Yellen. Across a top bar is a beautiful lintel with delicate swirls and floral twists, very difficult to execute, but commonly found on Yellen's decorative work. This top piece suffered the most damage when hit by the tree, but other parts of the gate need restoration work to function properly. The engineering of the gate, too, is different than most. Wrought iron work is created piece by piece in the dynamic interaction between artist and material. It begins with the right type of iron, with the right proportion of ore, so it can respond properly to the work. The raw material, usually in the shape of a squared rod, must be heated, and then force applied with skill, speed, and the proper tools to shape the metal before it begins to cool. Repeated heating and working is required, and the work takes on a certain rhythm as Bob concentrates on the process. The skill lies in part in knowing how to coax the iron gently but forcefully toward its future shape.
In my opinion, this is where the old smiths in the old ways excelled in their beauty of the finished product, and I think to keep up that form of welding in the fire with coal is a very important part of keeping the traditional designs and looks as they were of the old days.
After reconstructing the damaged bar sections and collars, the decorative pieces must be studied, straightened, reattached, and finally the completed gate parts must be gently and carefully sandblasted to remove all traces of oxidation before quickly receiving a coat of specially protective paint. After reinstallation, the gate will be ready to face another century with regular, simple maintenance. No one knows how many works of wrought iron from previous eras are still in existence in the U.S. Even the great Samuel Yellen's work is only partially documented. Although very strong and potentially capable of lasting for hundreds of years if properly cared for, even the most well-made wrought iron can disappear in a few decades. Without regular care, the high iron content oxidizes when exposed to air and moisture, and the process of deterioration accelerates over time. The great American country place era, when these gates were designed and forged, and everything they once represented in the days before the Depression, is now gone forever. We appreciate that the blacksmith's art form that created them, once much more common, is becoming increasingly rare in our modern world and may pass away altogether. Ornamental blacksmithing is still taught in traditional arts programs, and the American Artist Blacksmith Guild works to maintain these traditions. But the fine American works of ornamental wrought iron by the likes of Samuel Yellen and other metal artists will be increasingly threatened as the skill needed to restore and repair them diminishes. Like all aspects of our artistic and cultural heritage, we must apply our best efforts to document, study, preserve, and protect that which remains of our forebears. In this way, the physical legacy of the great architects, artists, craftsmen, and designers can continue to teach us about their world and offer a greater understanding and enjoyment of our own.